What is the number one mistake closers make when they're asking about current situation that instantly derails their conversations? It's asking for irrelevant details, irrelevant information. In fact, removing this one bad habit made my conversations 4 times more productive. So, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to fix it immediately, making your calls more easy, more clear, and massively more effective. This is episode 5 of this video series, and if you want to catch up on previous episodes, we will leave a link to the full playlist down in the description box. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first problem here in current situation, and I did this at the beginning as well, is not knowing what is it that we need to clarify, what data points we need about current situation. And the reason why most people make this mistake, literally they don't know what they should be asking here is because nobody taught them. So what I constantly see when it comes to current situation, and I'll put you a couple of examples, which is a massive mistake, is, for example, let's say fitness, weight loss. People ask here, the first question they ask here is, what are you doing for workouts? Right? Current situation. Or if we're talking about trading, how are you currently trading at the moment? Or if we're talking about a business opportunity offer, what do you currently do for a living? Because we're talking about people that they're employees, they are in the 9 to 5, they're looking to get out of that. So what do you currently do for a living? Right? Like logic's current situation type of question, situation awareness question. That's what I thought. Until I committed to understand every single part of the process and saw the differences. That's not what we want to ask. Also, another example in B2B, for example, imagine I have like a lead generation solution. What do you currently do for leads? How are you currently generating leads? That's the wrong situation awareness question. Why? Because at this moment, when we're starting, when we're getting into our second setup here, we're going to understand current situation. What we want to know is what are they doing now to get to North Star or to fix problem. It's not what are they doing to generate leads, is what are you currently doing to fix this bottleneck or to get to this outcome? What are you currently doing to fix the problem? What are you currently doing about solving this issue? It's not what are you currently doing for lead generation right now? How are you generating leads right now? No. It's what are you currently doing to get to North Star? Okay, to fix the problem. That is the question. It's a different question. So, for example, imagine someone wants to leave the 9 to 5 and become a cybersecurity expert, for example. So, we're not going to ask them, what do you do for a living here? We're going to ask them, what are you currently doing right now to become a cybersecurity expert? Does that make sense? That is the first sort of like clarity point that we need to have in situation awareness is what's going on right now to get to North Star. That's where we start. It doesn't mean that we're not going to ask about what is it that they do for a living, for example, but that's not the purpose. The purpose right now is what are you doing to get to North Star? A couple of things that I have here for you: data collection around current way of solving the problem, plus new opportunities to spot doors to be able to start building the gap, to be able to get to problems and pain. By us having focus on what is it that they're doing right now, not what they did 3 weeks ago, 4 or 5 months ago. Okay, know what they're doing for a living. What are they doing now to fix the problem? By us doing that, we're going to avoid unnecessary rabbit holes. We're going to avoid derailing for the conversation. In fact, here's the thing: you might ask the question the right way, and they might just answer something else. Well, I've been doing this, I've been doing that, da, da, da. But because now you have clarity that what we need to know, first thing first, is what's in place right now. We can go into what have you tried in the past, no worries. But right now, all I want to know, what are you doing right at this moment to lose that weight? What are you doing right at this moment to fix your current trading strategy? What are you doing to solve the problem, to fix the issue? Another thing super key here is we don't really need to know the details of what they're doing. We really don't need to know the details of it. That's another mistake that people just go into unnecessary details. We only need to know that it's not working. The only thing that we need to know and that we need to put on the table is that whatever they're doing is not working, it's not helping them. That is the massive shift there. So that's what we do. Okay. So after North Star, so we're here, we've done our first North Star conversation. If for whatever reason we didn't find opportunities to start, unpacking the problem and get into pain. So now we're just gonna go into our second set of data. Setup number 2. So what are you doing right now at the moment to fix bottleneck or to get to goal, to become a cybersecurity expert? And what's going to happen here is they're gonna tell us they're doing something or they're doing nothing. Those are the two possible outcomes. There's another outcome as well that I want to share with you. You need to be aware of is they tell you they're doing something, and then when we ask them how long they've been doing that for, the time frame is too little. So when the time frame doesn't add up, it's too little, or they just admit it's not working because oh, I've just recently started doing this for a week ago, but yeah, it's just not working. So yeah, that's what I meant. Then only in that situation, then we sort of like discard the fact that they're actually doing something, and then we just treat it as if they're doing nothing. Cool. So let's go with first into something. Okay, let's just unpack and break down something and nothing. So what are you currently doing at the moment to become a cybersecurity expert? I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I did a boot camp, I don't know, on YouTube, or I did this thing, and then I've been applying for roles, but it's not working. So by us asking this question, they're going to give us more data. And again, same thing as the previous section, the previous little conversation in the North Star. We're listening very carefully and we are spotting and identifying doors to be able to unpack, because oftentimes in both scenarios, they will give you the information, they will elaborate. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but it's not working because blah, 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 whatever. Important here, don't go into unnecessary details. We don't need to know that. Okay. So you can ask, okay, tell me more. You can ask a clarifying, probing question so that you can logically understand. You need to understand what they're doing. What I'm talking about is like you don't need to understand all the details, but you need to have an idea of what it is that they're doing. You need to understand it for you logically. Then you ask, how long have you been doing that for? Very important. And then we're going to ask also what caused you to do it that way in the first place. Because the fact that they're on the call, they are not in the call because everything is going perfectly and they don't have any problems. The fact that they're on the call is because whatever they're doing is not working. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on the call. They wouldn't be seeking for help. So by us asking what caused you to do it that way is also going to put on the table the fact that they didn't have any solid argument, or the way they decided wasn't just very, very based on anything solid, therefore creating and instilling more doubt about what they are currently doing to fix the thing. Now, let's get into the nothing section. Then we'll continue with this, okay? Let's just have clarity on this and this first. Cool. So, what are you doing right now to become a cybersecurity expert? And they either tell you straight up nothing, or they tell you something and then you just probe, and then it turns out that yeah, they're just reading books. That's not really something. They just admit it, or you just see that they've just been reading or watching videos for 2 weeks. So then you go, okay, it's gonna be nothing, right? So if they say nothing, or we conclude that is nothing, now what we're gonna do is, first of all, we're gonna challenge that. Because if you have this goal, there should be no reason why you at least try. No reason why you wouldn't try. So we're gonna ask, how come is that? How come you have this goal and you're doing nothing about it? Or we're gonna ask, why is that? And guess what? Through this process of gathering the questions, we're gonna get very, very valuable information, and we're gonna get doors to be able to tap into problems and pain. Okay. So that's the first question. How come? Why is that? Then what we're going to do is we're going to default into the current process. So in reality, nobody is really doing nothing to achieve North Star. Okay. In reality, it's not that they are, for example, let's say weight loss. When we ask, what are you currently doing right now to lose weight? Okay. If they say nothing, okay. All right. Yes, they're not doing anything, but that doesn't mean that they are not eating and moving their body. Does that make sense? So what we're going to do is we're going to default into the current process of gaining or losing weight. So essentially, what's your current workout plan? What are you actually eating? The same with the business opportunity. For example, if they're like, what are you currently doing right now to become a cybersecurity expert and sort of like transition from your 9 to 5? No, I'm not doing anything. Okay, so now we're gonna go into what is the current way that they got going on that provides them income and time freedom, so to say. Let's say that that person said at the beginning, the reason why I want to transition into cybersecurity is because I want to make more money and I want to have more time. So right now they have a vehicle that gives them money and gives them time. It might give them very, very little time and very, very little money. Do you see where I'm going? Does that make sense? So we're just gonna default into that current process. So for example, with business opportunity is money. So what is the current way this person is doing money? Right? With weight loss is nutrition, is exercise. So what is the current way? What is the default process in which they are either being healthy or not healthy? Does that make sense? For example, in trading. So what are you currently doing right now to fix this issue? No, I'm not doing anything. Okay. And let's say in this example, we're talking to people who are already trading. So it's an enhancement offer. All right. It's not that they're not trading. So then we'll ask them, okay, so first of all, how come? Why is that? And then we'll go into their current process, how they're trading. So we'll say, okay, so how are you trading at the moment? Tell me, like, what's your strategy? Oh, I don't have a strategy. Well, you're trading, right? So you're doing something. So if you don't want to call it strategy, that's fine. How are you doing it? Like, just walk me through the process of how you're doing it, so you understand the current process. So with that, what I mean is like there is always a process in place, right? So either they're doing something actively to fix it, or they're not. And if they're not, it's not that nothing is moving. There's something going on. It's just that they are not actively doing something to fix it. But for example, in business opportunities, like they're making money some way, they have a job in this case, or in fitness, they're moving, they're eating, or in an enhancement offer, like they are trading. So it's like walk me through the current process that you're using for that. That's where we default into. First, we ask how come, why is that? Then we default into that. In this case, for example, for a business opportunity, this is an example here for business opportunity. What do you do at the moment to bring in income? And I like to ask, what do you do at the moment to bring in income rather than what do you do for a living? Because if you ask, what do you do for a living? And they have another side hustle on the side that also brings income, they're not going to tell you because you ask them, what do you do for a living? But if you say, what do you do at the moment to bring in income? They're going to say, oh, I have my regular job and I have this thing. Now they tell that to you. So okay, cool. What is this thing? This. Oh, okay, got it. And what do you do for a living? Right? And then you just, you get better data that way. Not in this nothing section, we want to get extra information. For example, for business opportunity, we want to ask, how long have you been doing that for? Of course. Who else besides you is relying on that income? That's very, very important data. Resources and efficiency. How many hours are you working? What kind of effort or labor that is? In this second set of data, we're gathering more data, more specifics around the situation when it comes to the problem they're having, whether they're doing something or they're doing nothing. When it comes to something, it's less data, as you can see. At least at this point, we only care about understanding what is it that they're doing without getting too much into details. How long have they been doing that for, and what caused them to do it that way? So this section, actually, current situation, is the shortest section. Then, in the case of nothing, how come? Why is that? Current process. Who else besides you relying on that income? How many hours per week do you work? What kind of effort? How long have you been doing that for? In some offers, so this is customizable, by the way. You don't have to do this all the time. That's what we do in our mentorship program. We help you customize your situation awareness questions, your current situation type of questions. But in some cases, you want to ask for passion, depending on the offer. It's like, do you like what you do? Is something that brings you joy? In some others, it's not relevant. Okay. And then in this case, we want to do a recap because of the same reasons. Number one, just to continuing to display and to deploy empathy. And also, every time we do a recap, we give them an opportunity to add more information. Remember, when we're doing the recaps, use their words. Don't use your words. Don't put words in their mouth. Okay. Otherwise, you're gonna do the opposite than displaying empathy. And then now we go into this right here, into this section right here, which is we're going to challenge logical paths. Okay, great, cool. Now, you might, right at this point, you might get an opportunity to start diving into pain. Again, you're going to ask them these questions, and a lot of people will continue to expand on, whatever that is that they got going on. I have, oh, I'm doing this, but I really don't like it because this, because that. Problem is, you see, like they would expand. If they don't, that's okay, that's fine. We're gonna go into the next part, which is we're gonna challenge logical paths. So the first path or the first thing that we're going to challenge is the fact that they are on a call. In most cases, is an anomaly. Why? Because if they've been doing something or nothing for a decent amount of time, the logical pattern today is to continue to do that thing that they have already habituated to. Does that make sense? So asking for help or trying to fix an issue that's been going on for a while is an anomaly. That's the first thing we're going to challenge here. So, okay, you've been doing this thing for this amount of time. What's changed recently that has you now looking for outside help, external help, fixing this issue or starting this business? Boom. And that is going to put them in a state of mind of what is the problem here? What is the reason that I need help? And by the way, guys, they are going to admit that it's not working from the beginning of the conversation up until here. If they don't, that is not the norm. Okay. So something's going on. We'll have to look at the calls, what's going on, because it's very, very normal that they open up and they tell you that what they have a problem, that what they're doing is not working, etc. Okay. And that's all we need. In current situation, the most important thing is understanding and putting on the table that whatever they're doing is not working. We don't need to understand the details. Cool. So that's the first logical path, because the logical path, if they've been dealing with the problem for a while or they've been trying to fix it for a while on their own, is that they continue to do so. So, boom, we challenge that. Another one as well is, what's the main reason? Another way of asking this, for example, let's say trading. What's the main reason for wanting to adopt or can you say new or better? It depends, right? You have to customize it. What's the main reason for wanting to adopt a new strategy now rather than just keep doing what you're doing since you've been doing it for 3 months? You see? Boom. It's just like this question, challenging logical paths, allows us to put on the table problems and challenges. And again, just that's what we're looking for, doors to be able to start diving into pain. Challenging logical paths is going to be based on the situation and the information that they're giving you here. But there's always like a logical path they could go for, because it's like them being on the call right now, looking for external help, is an anomaly. Okay. And then you can do another recap optional. Okay. If you haven't done the recap here, you can do it here. Same purpose. And guys, by this time here, in 95% of the situation, if you master these two sub conversations, inside of the entire call, first conversation that we're going to have here, North Star, and the second one is current situation, the third one is problem, right? Which the goal is to really, really get to pain. That's the first objective when it comes to building the gap, just getting to pain as soon as possible. You guys master the first one and the second one, and you're never going to have to deal with the third setup. Like never, never, ever. In fact, you master this one. That's why the North Star is so key. You master the North Star, and you're never going to have to do this setup. Never ever. You might want to ask what is that they're doing, just for you to get an understanding of what's actually going on, just for you to get a picture. But you already build a gap. You are already, on track for this. You might need a little bit of context to continue to extend the gap, and that's what you might want to ask. A couple of questions in terms of like what are you got going on, etc. And then you sort of like prepare your next question to continue to expand the gap. But again, remember, this process is not rigid, and that's the beauty of it. Scripts don't work. What works is having a framework and understanding what it is that you're doing and then optimizing for that. In some cases, you start here and immediately from here, boom, you get into the pain. Some other cases, you might start here, you might get something, but then you have to go into current situation. And then from current situation, boom, you get straight into pain. In some cases, you do the current situation, you start collecting data, nothing comes up, and then you challenge a logical path, and boom, they start opening up. And this all comes from this initial principle that we talked about, not forcing the pain and just allowing it to come up. Like the more you try to force it, the more you try to find it, so to say, the more enforcing you are, in forcing camp you are, the higher the likelihood of them closing, them just like putting up a guard. But if you are in allowing state, I'm gonna allow things to pop up. I'm detached. I'm just doing my framework. I know it works. I'm present. I'm listening, and I'm just doing my initial conversation here. The more you are in that allowing, the more things will pop up, by itself. Most cases going to happen here. If not, you're going to find it here. No worries whatsoever. If you master not only the words, but also the tone and the intention, the way you're asking the questions, that is massive. Okay. Getting to pain and building this type of gap here, it doesn't have to be hard. Oftentimes, we make it more complicated than it is. Oftentimes, we're just trying to control too much the thing that by us trying to control it, we harm it, we damage it. That is current situation. And now in the next video, what we're going to do is we're going to dive into the problem awareness section, where if for whatever reason we haven't gotten any tangible problem to unpack or any opportunity to start building the gap, there is a last setup here that will allow us to do so. And then the next part of this section, problem awareness, is going to be pain. Everything that we're doing is to get to pain. So if we haven't gotten a problem, we're going to get it now here in this section, and then we'll dive into pain. But we're going to cover that in the next video. So I'll see you there.